Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. Today on this Sunday I want to present to you a peculiar part of German history. To be more precise, history about the Second German Empire, the German Reich. In this time, the highest patriotic holiday, even though it was never an official holiday, was the Sedan Day or Sedan Tag. On this holiday, or what was celebrated, was the victory, a decisive victory over the Imperial French army on September the 2nd, 1870. And that was a battle at the town of Sedan, a fortified town near the Maas River or close to the border to Belgium, and that is where the German army could win a decisive victory over French troops. It didn't mean the end of the war, but it was a shock to France and a great victory for the Germans. Remember, it wasn't the German Empire yet. The German Empire was proclaimed in January in the next year, then 1871 in Versailles. That was when the Reich was proclaimed. And this holiday was the highest patriotic holiday for about 50 years afterwards. The celebrations were not carried on beyond the year 1919, as you can imagine. In the time after the First World War, nobody felt like celebrating a victory over the French from 50 years ago. But that is, for half a century, it was the patriotic holiday in Germany. So in today's video I want to talk briefly about what happened at this battle, why it was so important, and then a little bit about the history of the holiday, and lose a couple of words then towards the end about the state of affairs today in Germany. So the French initially had the plan to summon their troops, to mobilize and to advance into Germany along the Main River. That is towards Frankfurt, for example. Frankfurt is called Frankfurt am Main. This is where the Main River, the Main flows into the Rhine, and the French wanted to push into Germany along this river. So that plan never came to fruition, as the French couldn't mobilize fast enough. The Germans were much faster to mobilize, and the French lost initial battles at the border, and that brought all their plans into disarray, and their army fell into confusion. And so it is like in the Battle of Metz, for example, they were encircled. It was a very a victory that was costing the Germans heavy casualties, but they could surround the French in Metz, and they took 130,000 French troops out of the game. And in October then, they finally then surrendered there. But in Sedan, at the Maas River, it was in the following way. The Prussian troops were advancing to the north, eastward, of course, westward, of course, and they went over an unprotected and undefended bridge, and they could position themselves north of Sedan, while the Bavarian troops were advancing south of Sedan, and they defeated, or they cast away the French army in intense street-to-street, house-to-house combat. So eventually then the French army was surrounded. They barricaded themselves in Sedan. It took the German artillery half an hour of bombardment. So German guns were firing for half an hour, and as a result then the white flag was raised over Sedan. The French army there, the French troops, surrendered, and that broke the Imperial French army's back. Now, the French Emperor Napoleon III, after these disasters at the border in the beginning of the war, he came under pressure. He got some heat internally, so he had to go to the front. He couldn't hide in his castle anymore, in his palaces. He had to come to the front line, and he was also in Sedan then. So after they surrendered then, the German army made a lot of prisoners. They, of course, the French Emperor Napoleon III became a prisoner of Germany. Then the 39 generals, 2,800 officers, and 83,000 French troops. And that was big. After the emperor became a prisoner, or was taken a prisoner, the empire ended basically, and the republic was proclaimed in France. But that didn't mean that the war was over or something. It actually intensified the French mobilization. But eventually they still lost the war. So when the news of the news reached Germany that the French emperor became a prisoner, in patriotic, nationalist, and middle class, or we call it bürgerlich, but in these circles, in these patriotic circles, that led to spontaneous celebrations. And from that day on, and I think in 1872, a pastor, a Protestant pastor, actually suggested to make this day a, not holiday, but a day of commemoration. The anniversary of this decisive victory then so became something of a day of commemoration. It was never an official holiday, but it was at the same time, it was the biggest patriotic holiday in a way. Okay, so the thing is, now on just a couple of days ago, on September the 2nd, 2020, it was the 150th anniversary of this battle. And I cannot say we celebrate it, because of course we don't celebrate this day anymore, but it is also a different thing altogether. I think that Germans don't even know about this day anymore. And I think you as foreigners probably never heard of it. But, you know, we Germans, we covered it in history class at least. But we don't, I mean, not many Germans know about the Sedan Day. Even though it was for almost half a century, it was the German national patriotic holiday, that was celebrated in the Reich. But nowadays nobody remembers anymore. So I think that has two reasons. One is education overall is really, it's not that great anymore in Germany. The German education system is really bad. Standards were reduced in some states more than in others. Education is a federal matter. Is not a federal matter, but a state matter. So every state has their own education system. So there is some competition there in the German Federation. But nevertheless, standards have been declining for decades now. And the reason is, of course, that some of the young people there are just not able to keep up anymore. Let's put it that way. So, of course, we covered that in history class, but even among my generation, if I would ask around people who were sitting next to me in history class and they heard it when we covered it, but they wouldn't know it anymore, because that's the second point I want to make. Not only has the education level, the standards been declining, Germans just don't care anymore. So even if they heard it in history class and they wrote a test about it or something, they don't really remember that stuff anymore, right? So only some history buffs or some patriots or some nationalists would remember or even take notice that there was just the 150th anniversary of that victory at Sedan. And that is kind of sad, but I have to tell you, I mean, I would like Germans to remember that day and be aware, be educated about our history and about the fact that people in the Reich, like our great-grandfathers or something, they were celebrating this day. But at the same time, I don't want to bring back that day. I mean, attempts were made after 1919 to bring it back, but they were eventually unsuccessful, as you can imagine. But I don't think it fits in today's age anymore. I mean, it is celebrating the victory over the French. I mean, I think if you want to be good neighbors, that is not the thing you want to celebrate. Probably it is like when maybe like when the Japanese prime minister, the emperor, would visit some kind of a shrine in Tokyo, let's say, then the Koreans always complain, right? You know what I'm talking about, I guess. So yeah, I don't want to celebrate this day anymore, really, officially or unofficially, because we want to be good neighbors and friends of our French neighbors to the west. But I think if you followed my channel for longer and watch maybe not all, but some of my videos at least, you know that I'm not the biggest friend of the French, okay? I mean, I try to like them, but they make it very hard for us. On the one hand side, in the EU, or yeah, as partners, they want to go their own way all the time, and they want to, yeah, in foreign policy, for example, they want to have their independence, and the French prime minister acts like he is the emperor himself. Very opinionated, and they always do things on their own there. But then again, when it comes about money, then they want integration, and then they want European integration, and they want welfare insurance, or welfare programs, unemployment insurance, not on a national level, but on a European level, of course, and you know what that means. Then they want Euro bonds. That means they can borrow money, they can they can get cash, and Germans have to vouch for that. They get our nice interest rates, and the German taxpayer in the end has to guarantee for that. Then we have to vouch for it, that and the French can get some money. That is their attitude, and that's not cool. But nevertheless, of course, I would never want to celebrate such a day anymore. I acknowledge it. I think it's cool. I think it's part of our history. It's great. But we need another holiday. I mean, not one more holiday, but I think our current national holiday, like reunification and all that stuff, I don't know. It's not proper, I think. We need a real national holiday, I think. All right. So, it's so windy. Sorry, I hope you can hear me well. So I hope I could inform you about this very interesting piece of German history. Maybe you have never heard about the battle at Sedan, or the Sedan Day, or Sedan Tag, as we say in Germany. And yeah, it was very important. And so you know about the battle, and you know that it was the biggest patriotic annual celebration in the German Reich. So I hope you found that interesting, and maybe not useful, but maybe interesting. Enjoy your Sunday, wherever you may be. Servus, Kameraden.